Hi, I'm Rachel and this is the Nowhere Book Club. This is my November reading wrap-up where I talk about all the books that I've read or not read in November, and I think I've had a pretty good month, to be quite honest. So books that I carried forward were The Constant Rabbit by Jasper Fforde, Wuthering by Emily Bronte, This Is How We Come Back Stronger, The Shadow Rising. Were there any others that I specifically carried forward? I'm not sure, but the first thing that I did in November was finish The Constant Rabbit. I enjoyed this. I really like Jasper Fforde's writing. I think I just like satire in general, I think, is something that I'm discovering. Gosh, I read this at the start of the month and a long time has passed, but I felt like it was a good observation of some themes that are always on the rise in the UK. But done in a nice way. I also only put together that it was called The Constant Rabbit because the rabbit character was called Constance after I'd finished the book. I don't know if there's any more meaning behind that or not, but yeah, it was a solid read. I enjoyed it. Then I read Devotion by Hannah Kent. This is centered on two girls who are growing up in an old Lutheran community in Germany, and their community is being persecuted, and as a whole their community decide to move to Australia to colonize Australia, really. But it centers on Hannah and Thea and the relationship that they share, and I loved it. I've dogged some pages because they were nice. Oh, in fact, let me read one of them. Even now, even after the great cataclysm, it sustains me. Owe no one anything, only love one another, for she who loveth hath fulfilled the covenant. Never was scripture so beautifully rendered to my heart. And I repeat that sentiment, never was a sentence so beautifully rendered to my heart. It's not a nice book, obviously, because it deals with persecution and colonialism and things like that, but I really enjoyed it, and I like the relationships that it portrayed. And I would definitely read Hannah Kent's writing again. I wanted to immediately go out and buy her other books, but there's a shelf next to me that I haven't touched, so can't do that. I started doing this thing where I go to the library every Wednesday on my way home from work. So one Wednesday in November, I forgot what month I was talking about then, I picked up 3 books from the library. One of them, The Monsters We Defy by Leslie Penelope. This was to satisfy the P on my A to Z of female authors, and it's about somebody who can talk with the spirit world in, I can't remember, but it looks good. I haven't read it yet, but I still own it. I don't own it because I've borrowed it from the library, but I still have it in my possession and I do intend to read it. I also borrowed Treacle Walker by Alan Garner. This was recommended to me by someone that I went on a couple of dates with, and I haven't read any of it yet, but I'm very intrigued by what it contains. And then I also borrowed Things We Do Not Tell the People We Love by Huma Qureshi. This was another trying to satisfy the letters in my author A to Z. I have read this, I read it in November, I really liked it. This is a short story collection about, I guess, keeping things from people that we love. Sometimes because we don't want to hurt them, sometimes because we don't want to disappoint them. And I found it really good. Yeah, I found it really interesting to read. I thought they were well written, and some of them were really beautiful, actually. What was my favourite? I can't remember what my favourite was, but I enjoyed reading this. I think I read this in like 2 or 3 days. After I'd finished that, I started reading Minnie Driver's Managing Expectations, which is a biographical memoir of her life. I borrowed this from the library in October and I have started reading it. I am about 2/3 of the way through it and I'm really enjoying it. I've never really read much biography before, or autobiography. Can you lump them together? I don't actually know. But yeah, I think because it's a subject matter that I actually do have my own interest in, with it being from written by an actor / musician, yeah, I'm really finding it interesting. Then, while still reading that, I went to the library again on a Wednesday, and I got, to satisfy the E of my author A to Z, I got a book of poetry by Hannah Emerson. It's called The Kissing of Kissing. I don't know if you can see that. The Kissing of Kissing. This is the first book in a series called the Multiverse series, which is designed to, let me read it. Multiverse is a literary series devoted to different ways of languaging. It primarily emerges from the practices and creativity of neurodivergent, autistic, neuroqueer, mad, non-speaking and disabled cultures. Now, it is definitely a different way of languaging. I have read this completely in November. I think I read it over 2 days. The more I read it, the more I understood, maybe not understood, but could parse the poetry as it was written. There's a lot of repetitive phrases throughout the whole poetry collection, and once I got to the end, I then went back to the beginning and read some of the ones that I struggled to get to grips with beforehand. I really liked, what did I really like? I really liked Peripheral. I think that was one that I marked. That was really short. I really liked, I think it was To Burrow. In fact, let me read a line from To Burrow because I thought it was really, really interesting. This is about worms and stuff. Well, it's about poetry, comparing them to worms. So this is a line from this poem, or several lines from this poem. Poetry is the worms in our souls trying to burrow new helpful lungs in our minds. Great normals need this to breathe, to go forward into the future. Yes, yes, that's just one sentence from that poem, To Burrow. And I just... yeah, some of them were a bit harder for me to wrap my head around, but I persisted and I really liked it. I also liked Musability. Can I find that now? I can't find it now. Oh yeah, I did. I really like that one. But yeah, I thought there was some really interesting themes being explored in this collection. I just think that I need to read more poetry to fully be able to appreciate the complexity of some of them. In the little biography of the poet at the back, it says Hannah Emerson is a non-speaking autistic, and she definitely does have a different way of languaging. So I would maybe be interested in checking out different books in the multiverse just to broaden my own understanding of how language works as a concept in itself. So yeah, that was cool. I've been listening to The Shadow Rising. I haven't listened to much of it, to be quite honest, but it is still persistent. I think it's such a long book. I'll talk more about this in mine and Cathy's video about it, but because it's such a long book, sometimes you just need a break. And I'm really enjoying it, but sometimes you need a break. I've read one chapter of Wuthering Heights, which is not a lot. I think I read 2, maybe 3 pieces from This Is How We Come Back Stronger. Every time I seem to read this more in the bath, and then when I come out of the bath, having read 2 or 3, I then think, I could read one of those every night before bed. I could read one in the morning, and that would get me through it at quite a rapid pace. And then I don't. But yeah, this tends to be my bath reading because I can't take Wuthering Heights in the bath because the pages are really thin and I don't want to damage them. And I can't take library books in the bath because, well, I can't damage library books, but also they're full of germs and I don't want the germs to pollute my steamed bathroom, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's all the books that I've read in November. I feel, and the books that I haven't read, I feel pretty good about the month. This is the kind of reading outlook that I want to have every month, but this year just really hasn't had that kind of pizzazz. Books I'm carrying forward are Minnie Driver, Wuthering Heights, This Is How I Come Back Stronger, The Shadow Rising, and these 2 books I haven't even touched. But I think once I finish Minnie Driver, I'll probably read this one. That's it for my November reading wrap-up. Make sure to check out Cathy's November reading journal, because those are always really cute, and she says much more worthwhile things than my ramblings. But let me know what you've been reading in November. Let me know if you've read any of the books I've read. Let me know if you've read Treacle Walker or The Things We Defy. Is that what it's called? The Monsters We Defy. And whether they are good or not. Thanks, bye! Pizzazz, who am I? Treacle Walker.